rather abstract, but what kind of changes you're going to bring about your foreign policy compared with the existing foreign policy under President Joko Widodo? Of course, within the framework of free and active foreign policy, a lot of things will continue. But what kind of changes are you going to bring about under your presidency? Thank you very much.
Terima kasih Pak Dubes. Kaisar Bapak ternyata ramah sekali. Saya mengantarkan Kaisar melihat candi, dan dulu kami dikasih tahu Pak Dubes, nanti tidak boleh salaman. Padahal kami ingin salaman, kami ingin jabat tangan dengan Kaisar. Dan kami disuruh berhenti, dan ini tidak boleh salaman. Waduh, padahal kita ingin salaman.
Ganesh, my name is Amanda Hodge. I'm a journalist with the Australian newspaper. Thanks for coming today, and I've enjoyed your talk. I'm interested in what you're talking when you were referencing a previously transactional or Indonesia's transactional foreign policy, wanting Indonesia to become a more global, a more active global citizen. You referenced being a participant in organisations like the OECD, in the G20, in the UNGA, and you also referenced the Bandung Spirit and the non-aligned movement. We've seen in recent years another founder of the non-aligned movement, India, joining an important minilateral in this region, the Quad. I wonder if Indonesia's free and active policy, as you see it, precludes Indonesia from perhaps joining where it could take advantage of one of these new minilateral organisations, whether it be the Quad or AUKUS or one of these.
Thank you for the questions. I would rather see Indonesia participating more on international institution or cooperations with regard to economic activity at this point, instead of and that is leaning toward security or leaning toward non-economic activity at this moment. So, for instance, if we have an opportunity that we are now pursuing OECD, for instance, then it is something that we need to push. But if we are engaging more on the military and power related cooperations, it may shift our core principles of neutral, non-aligned state. And I think we need to maintain that status. But if we're able to engage with international cooperations like OECD, for example, we will benefit as much as they benefit from our presence. That would be my response.
Okay, that was, I think, the microphone, the next person, yeah. And then we have to turn to that side afterwards.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, I am Satya Permesi, today. As we know, many countries and many private equities investors are currently investing or have invested in projects, infrastructure projects in Indonesia, one of them being the new capital city in Kalimantan, which is partially funded, of course, by investors from across the world. So how would your administration include these investments in the new capital into your foreign policy? Thank you.
One of the key value we need to uphold is predictability, consistency, and respect to contracts, cooperation that has been made by government, be it new government agree or disagree. I think that's key. So for any cooperation that has been done, any contract that has been made, we need to value and we need to send the message to investors across the globe that Indonesia and government of Indonesia always value contract, because if we don't value that, then we will lose our credibility before the world. So that's principle number one. On the project itself, we will allow assessment. But even if after the assessment there is decision that may not be in favor, but we need to provide protection, we need to provide assurance that they are not going to experience loss or missed opportunity because of government decision. Jadi with regard to investor, but with regard with the project itself on the Nusantara project, let technocratic assessment lead the assessment, not so much political assessment.
We have time for just one more question. I'd like to invite from this group, anyone? Yes, one and two, short questions. You first, and then the gentleman at the back. Tolong mikrofonnya.
Thank you very much. My name is Yasir Ali, Ambassador of Sudan. I'd like to thank you for the elaborative and very interesting presentation. And you've mentioned about the spirit of Bandung. So I'd like to know your policy towards Africa. This is giving a very good gesture to us as African. And from a perspective of achieving the food security for Indonesia, for example, as you know, Indonesia is aspiring to achieve food security, and there is a huge opportunities to cooperate with some African countries which has a lot of resources to cooperate with you to achieve that. And also African aspiring to have sort of cooperation, especially in the technical and capacity building. We have noticed that many Asian countries like from the ASEAN are having very active role with Africa, and I think Indonesia to some extent needs to exert more effort. I noticed this during my period as an ambassador in Tanzania. I saw many ASEAN countries are very active with Africa, but Indonesia, I think, needs to be more active in that regard. The other part, what about the plan for the BRICS? Do you have any plan to, if you are elected, to be part of the BRICS? Thank you.
We'll take the other question. There was a gentleman at the back before I answer the question. Did you raise your hand, please? Microphone, tolong. Thank you.
My name is Kanasugi Kenji, Ambassador of Japan. This is not so much to do with diplomatic strategy, but people say that democracy in the world is declining. And during your presentation, you seem to suggest that democracy in Indonesia is on the downside. And if so, how are you going to redress the situation? How are you going to rectify domestic politics in this country? Thank you.
First of all, Pak Dubes Sudan, His Excellency, Africa is the future. This is a continent of the future. You have large number of young generation, definitely. And if you look at not only the demography, but also on potential development cooperation, it's tremendous. And it's true that we have not paid enough attention to Africa. We have not paid enough attention. I think we need to improve our awareness toward the fruits of cooperation between Indonesia and African countries. And we can start from countries that is more relevant to our need and that is relevant to what we can contribute to yours. And perhaps Sudan is one of the closest of all in terms of all African countries. So the approach will be rather similar. That's why I mentioned when Pak Dubes Italy raised earlier about what are you going to do with the relationship with EU, my response is a generic approach that needs to be done to other regions, including Africa. We need to sit down, do assessment. And on top of that, I think it's time for us to be more serious in bringing in Indonesian business leaders, Indonesian business community into a particular country and push and assist them to have investment, business activity in African countries. The opportunity, as you said, you are seeing businessmen coming in from all over Asia, but not Indonesia. And I suspect one of the reasons is we are ourselves in government is not out there being proactive in offering support and help toward those who are interested on doing business in the region. So that's one. With BRIC, I don't think we're interested on joining BRIC. That would be brief, Pak. Now, with regard to Pak Dubes Japan on quality of democracy can translate into various different indicators, Pak. Even the definition of democracy, there is no less than 500 definition of what is called democracy. So translation into that is numerous. But I think issue number one that needs to be brought back is to restore trust into institution of democracy. Restoring trust into the institutions. Be it constitutional court, be it the parliament, be it all others, restoring institution, that's one. And how do we do that? One is appointments and code of ethics that is seriously upholded. And it has to start with example. Top leadership needs to show commitment on upholding ethics. If top leadership compromise on ethics, then the rest will even go further. Number two, revising some of our law that has restricted freedom of expression. And we have seen some of our laws being used to suppress freedom of expression. And even today, the Undang-Undang ITE itu apa bahasa Inggrisnya, Pak Mas Andi? Apa? The cyber law, for example. The cyber law has been so flexible in indicting almost anyone if they have expressed some criticism. Even criticism not toward government, even criticism toward other entity of non-state. You can be charged and you can be prosecuted. And I think we need to revise some of that to ensure freedom of expressions. And number three is, which is not less important, is combating corruption in a serious way and addressing the upstream, the core of why corruption is happening, especially on policy making. Political financing has not been reformed for the past 25 years. We reform our electoral system, we reform our party system, we reform central and local government relationship, we reform presidency and other national bodies of the state, but we did not reform how political process, how political party, how campaign is being financed. Without addressing that issue, we will always trap with various derivatives of corruptions, which is now are seeing. So quality of democracy is not only being judged by the electoral process, but also by the quality of delivery of democracy itself, and also by ensuring that principle of good governance is present. So that would be the agenda. This is big, may not be complete in a year or two, but if we don't start by expressing our commitment, outlining the plan, and making it public, then we will not be able to achieve all of that. And I think that one of our commitment to be done if authority is being given. Power still in the land of in the people, but authority that can be given to any one of us. Terima kasih, Pak.
Terima kasih.